I'm Sammy Sage with your current events in less than 10 minutes. Today we have Jeffrey Epstein's sugar daddy, Leon Black, testifying to Congress. The Senate voted for the war in Iran after voting against the war in Iran the day before. I guess they're scared of the president. We also have another victory in New York City for Zoran Mamdani, a former Meta employee who's suing the company, which I still want to call Facebook, for blocking her from promoting her book, which is a tell-all all about Facebook. I read it, it's good. The Supreme Court dropped a bunch of rulings yesterday, so now guns are legal in grocery stores, Stephen Miller is getting ready to deport 1 million people, and Maha is finding out, let's just say. This is the morning announcements. Subscribe and turn on notifications to know what the is going on every day. Let's get into it. Meta tried to stop a former employee from promoting her book, so now she's suing the company, and the whole thing is about to become way more public than Meta ever wanted. And maybe if this goes viral enough, we can change the name of the Streisand effect to the Facebook poke. Sarah Wynn-Williams, who wrote the scathing tell-all Careless People, was prevented from promoting her book or speaking about it publicly for over a year by an arbitration agreement that she reached with Meta. But her book was #1 on the bestseller list anyway, and has sold over 130,000 copies, and now she is suing Meta in federal court, alleging that the underlying employment contract that their arbitration agreement enforces is invalid. Jeffrey Epstein's former client, Leon Black, is testifying to Congress today, which is important because Leon Black paid Epstein around $170 million to quote-unquote manage his money, and the phrase, "please call Leon Black," appears over 300 times in the Epstein files. And a quick little walk down memory lane. Leon Black was forced to step down from his role as CEO of Apollo, which he founded, after the details of his relationship with Epstein and that $170 million payment became public in 2021. And the Senate Finance Committee has been looking into Black's finances ever since, specifically how he allegedly used Epstein as a middleman to make hush money payments to women, among other things that are beyond the scope of this family show. Black also paid the U.S. Virgin Islands over $60 million in 2023 as part of a settlement that would release him from any further legal liability that could result from an investigation by the U.S. Virgin Islands into Epstein's sex trafficking. Yeah, innocent people frequently pay that much money. As of now, there's still one remaining open case against Leon Black by a Jane Doe who filed a lawsuit in 2023 alleging that he sexually abused her when she was a teenager. And I hope Congress is well briefed on all of this so they don't waste any time. A lot to talk about. Speaking of the Epstein files, though, a federal judge in D.C. ruled that the DOJ is required to unredact specific additional pages of the Epstein files, following a lawsuit brought by independent journalist Katie Fang against Trump's personal lawyer and current Attorney General drone Todd Blanche. Some of the pages that Fang seeks to have unredacted include FBI interviews with a woman who claimed that Trump sexually assaulted her when she was a minor, and an email between Epstein and Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem about a quote-unquote torture video. And now the DOJ is required to either hand over the unredacted documents or make a case in court for why they can't comply with it by July 2nd. Tick-tock. You know how the Senate just voted on their 10th try against Donald Trump's war with Iran? And then he threw a tantrum and got in a fight at the Republican Senate lunch. And so they voted again, and they voted to let him keep doing the war this time. Specifically, Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy was a big caver on this one, even though he was already primaried out of office by Donald Trump. And even though he was the one who got into the fight with Donald Trump, he still voted to change his mind. So pathetic. And why would we need to keep fighting a war that our president has said we've already won several times? Have I got news for you? Because Iran attacked another ship that attempted to cross the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, and now Iran is reportedly estimating that they, as well as any countries that ally with them on this project, could net $40 billion a year if they were to reopen the strait on their own terms and charge tolls, like they have been doing. So I would expect that to come soon. Iran's chief negotiator said earlier this week that, quote, "everyone needs to know that management of the strait will never return to the way it was before." Ominous. But it really just shows how quickly one's financial circumstances can turn in less than a year in either direction. And I say that because this comes as the White House has now formally requested that Congress vote to give the military another $87 billion for the war, and a little bit of that will be for disaster response, because they've been so responsible spending the money that we gave them already. It's never been clearer who's losing and who's gaining from this war as it is right now. The Supreme Court handed down a stack of 3 6-3 rulings, you know which way they went, that did everything from making it easier to carry a gun into a grocery store to giving more power to the president. and preventing cancer patients from suing the maker of Roundup over toxic chemicals. Guns first. The Supreme's rule to strike down Hawaii's state gun law, which bans people from carrying firearms in certain public spaces, like beaches and malls, as well as on private property when someone does not have express permission from the property owner. I'm stuck on the idea of a gun at the beach, which to me is like drinking a hot cider on a hot summer's day. Then we have the immigration decisions. The court ruled that an immigration law that Congress passed in 1990, which gave protection to asylum seekers fleeing inhumane circumstances, was wrong, and that the president instead has the final authority to rule on temporary protected status for asylum seekers without any review from the courts, so they took away their own power to review. In practical terms, this decision will remove TPS status for Syrian and Haitian refugees that are in the United States right now, some of whom have been here for more than a decade. So this is clearly the best day of Stephen Miller's life, as he rushed to the White House driveway after the rulings to talk to reporters. And he said this.
What I said was that this country doesn't have a future if we don't end birthright citizenship. Obviously, the right and correct way to end birthright citizenship is for the Supreme Court to rule what the 14th Amendment clearly and correctly means. But one way or another, this nation has to end birthright citizenship.
Do you expect the administration to deport anyone who loses TPS status as a result of this ruling?
Well, of course, if you no longer have status in this country, then you're supposed to be deported. And of course, as you know, you've heard me talk about here many times before, all asylum claims across the southwest border are always fair.
And the last big decision by the Supreme Court, for yesterday at least, made it illegal for consumers to bring lawsuits in state courts against manufacturers of products that don't warn of their potential hazards. This is actually a big point of contention for the Maha crowd, who have been calling for a crackdown on chemicals such as glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in the weed killer Roundup. And Roundup was actually at the center of this case, which involved a lawsuit against Monsanto in Missouri State Court, brought by a man who claimed that Roundup caused his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Did Maha think that MAGA wasn't going to choose capitalism over conscience? Adorable. In a lower court, a federal judge blocked the Trump administration's executive order that attempts to create a citizenship list of eligible voters and restrict mail-in voting by prohibiting the post office from sending ballots to or from anyone not on their citizenship list. The judge, who was appointed by Obama, such a shame that I need to specify that all the time now, called the executive order an attempt to, quote, intimidate local election officials into using flawed citizen lists under the threat of prosecution, and that it falls outside the president's constitutional authority. Also, voting fraud barely ever happens, like in the tens of times ever, and you'll never guess who it was when it did happen. And also, mail-in voting has existed for over 100 years. It's not some untested modern mess, like the faces at Mar-a-Lago. It's Friday, it's Friday. Got distracted for a second there. And finally, Zohran Mamdani in New York City have been on a winning streak, and the cherry on top is that rent is about to stop going up for over 1 million New Yorkers. The city's Rent Guidelines Board voted to enact Mamdani's rent freeze on 1- and 2-year leases, which will apply to approximately 1 million rent-regulated apartments for leases that start on or after October 1st. If you're unfamiliar with New York City rents, sit down for this one. The median rent for all rent-stabilized apartments in the city is just over $1,600 a month, as opposed to the median rent for market-rate apartments, which is currently over $4,000 a month in some neighborhoods. Of course, there will probably be some legal challenges to the rent freeze from parties who are opposed to it, such as landlords, as the board is legally required to consider other economic conditions in its decision, such as utilities, maintenance, taxes, and other factors. Yeah, that's why we need the rent to be frozen. So it sounds like the landlords do get it. Until next week, I'm Sammy Sage, and now you know what the is going on. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you get the morning announcements right when it comes out every day. And make sure to share the show with all your friends.